Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis, and today I am going to show you not a repotting video, but I want to show you something interesting on my Catasetum that you can apply to your own Catasetums. And specifically, it's about the roots, and even more specifically, it's about the roots on a plant that is dormant. And I see a lot of information where I see and hear people say that the plant's roots are dead during dormancy. And I don't find that to be true, especially on larger plants. In fact, in my last video, I showed you my Catasetum lucis, which is in the process of waking up. It's got two little growths, little itty bitty things, and that's the perfect time to repot. And that's another thing I want to show you today. What is the perfect stage to repot? And I can show you that today. But more importantly, the roots don't die. So last year, so the roots that were put out in 2023, definitely dead. The roots that were put out in 2024, which is the most recent growing season, it's January 2025 right now, but the roots that were put out last season are not only very much alive, but they're actively growing. So if you come across that situation, and if you do this for long enough, you will, because that's really what happens is these roots don't just instantly die as soon as the plant drops its leaves. They stick around for a long time, which is why those pseudobulbs will still fatten up after shriveling a bit during dormancy. If those roots are dead, the plant will not fatten those bulbs after shrinking down when they don't have water for a certain extended period of time, which logically makes sense. And I want to show you that today. I really want to show you, again, not only these roots are alive, but they're actively growing. And then what do you do in that situation when you're repotting? So I will do a full repotting PET video probably this spring. But right now it's 40 degrees outside, which is way too cold for a Catasetum. So I want to make this quick, but I really wanted to show you what I was seeing. So I'm going to turn the camera around. I'm going to show you those roots. I'm going to get the plant potted up and show you what I'm going to do with those actively growing roots. And spoiler alert, I'm cutting those things off. Just totally, they're not useful right now. The plant needs a repotting. So cutting those live, active growing roots is something you never want to do. If you don't have to, in this case, I have to. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so here is the plant in question. Here is this lucis, and you see how big this thing is? This thing still hasn't bloomed for me, which is absolutely mind-boggling. I don't know why it's taking so long, but it should bloom on these two new growths here. And let's see, I can zoom it in here and show you that this is the perfect time to repot. It's not when the plant gets bigger or when the new growth gets bigger and the roots start extending. It's before those roots start extending. That way, there's a zero chance that I'm going to harm those new roots during the repotting process. So this is when you want to repot. Later is okay. This is best. This is the perfect time to repot. Now, I told you about those roots. And I want to show you active root growth, not just like one or two, but literally all of them at the bottom of the pot, all over. Here, there's another one. There's a big giant one. Literally every single one of these white roots that you see here is actively growing new root tips and extending in length. So what do? Well, I told you already, this media, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. This has been in this pot for at least 2 or 3 years. Also, this thing was walking out of its pot. So the edge of the pot is right here, and there's just no room for these new growths to expand and then send roots that stay in the media. So I've gone ahead. Oh, here's the actual tag. I suspect a bunch of you at home have this as well. And so this is the new pot. I'll show you how to make this. I have a bunch of videos where I make these, but I'll do another one sometime soon. And I have my EpiWeb here on the bottom, which are just these recycled plastic cubes, and they're inorganic, and they stay in the water well down here so they don't rot, since they're going to be completely submerged for most of the growing season. So what I'm going to do, again, for the sake of expediency, I have already hit a propane torch on these, so these are clean, and I'm just going to start cutting. I'm going to cut away pretty much everything, not because I think that cutting the roots off is needed or necessary each year, but simply so that I can get this plant potted in its new home. So again, here are a bunch of white roots, all of which are very much alive and growing and branching and just being happy little active roots that are gone. So the next thing that I need to do is I'm going to shave off this back piece here. The good thing is I have removed the roots so that it fits easily into the pot. I've still left enough on to anchor the plant, and this media here is in good enough condition that I'm not too worried about it. However, in my chopping zealotry, you can see I did a thing that was not great. So this biggest growth was ripped off, unfortunately. So, you know, one of my big things that I like to do on my channel is make mistakes and then show you how not to do it. So when you're repotting, be very, very careful of these tender new growths. So I was all excited about not breaking off the new roots. I should have also been excited about not breaking off a new growth. Still, I have this one here. And so all is not lost for this set of new growths. What's interesting is that me ripping that little one off will probably trigger 2 or 3 more to grow in the coming weeks. So this thing is gonna say, oh crap, I lost all of these roots and I lost this new growth. So I'm gonna really crank it into overdrive and just put out a ton of new stuff. So I'm gonna get this potted up and I will show you what it looks like. All right, so this one is potted up, ready for the 2025 growing season. And you can see the growth that I didn't kill, still there, tucked away, safe and sound, with cypress mulch here on top, the EpiWeb here on the bottom, my water well. So during the growing season, of course, I'll have water in here like this the whole way. You can see the snapped off growth, and I'm curious to see if I'll get 2 or even 3 more growths to replace it as the plant scrambles to replace what was lost. And of course, my little fertilizer baskets that add additional nutrients in the form of slow release Jim's purely organic fertilizer, in addition to the fertilizer that I add in that I add to the bucket there, and then I use in the hose. So I suspect I'll start watering this probably in early to mid-March. Hopefully it'll have blooms by then, because the blooms come up typically at the same time as the new growth. Anyway, Hope you're having a great weekend. Bye.